Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Under Adria's Wings Life After Loss podcast. And today I have a special guest, and her name is Precious. Say hi, Precious.
Hi.
So, Precious is a fellow griever.
I am.
Yeah, I met her via like Instagram. Actually saw a post for her support groups for grieving daughters. And I was just led to join the call one evening, and I've been on them every week since then. So, you want to say a little bit about the support group?
Sure. Yes. We met via the support group. My name is Precious, but my social media is at Finding Her Light. And what I do is offer every Wednesdays Daughters Grieving and Healing Support Group. And it is for women who are grieving the loss of their mother or father. And lots of time, the women who are part of the group have also experienced other losses. And so I don't want people to feel limited. If you feel led to join, of course you can join. It's every Wednesday, and on the first and third Wednesday, it's at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and the second and fourth Wednesday, it's at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And we met and kind of just had so many different parallels with our stories. And
Yeah.
then instantly kind of clicked, right?
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And it's just sort of crazy. Well, not crazy. I had to stop using that word. But it's like like how we clicked like on the basis of grief.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a sad kind of clicking. It was just like, wow, you get it. You get me. You understand. So it
Yeah.
was beautiful.
It was. And I know, like, somebody's listening and they're like, beautiful in grief, right? Like, how can you use those words to describe the same thing? And once you're someone who have accepted your grief and you're living with it, you know that it's just so many different phases of your grief. And I think for us, we're in a phase where we are embracing it and finding our purpose within it. And so when we're able to like talk and we're like clicking, it's like, wow, I feel so seen. And on a spiritual level, on a deeper level, and it was exciting. It's different because it's not something that you can experience often. So when you have that genuine authentic vibe, it feels good to feel seen for sure, and to also feel like you're not alone or isolated in a journey like ours.
Absolutely. And we both know that isolation is like a huge part of it. And it's just like at some point on this grief journey, you want to be able to connect to other people who feel the same way as you feel because that
Yeah,
isolation part, oh my gosh, it's hard.
it is hard. And I think I didn't know that I needed support in this way when I first was grieving, because I kind of thrived or wanted isolation, because to me, being sad, being angry, being isolated validated my feelings that my mom was gone. And the idea of finding a support group like this, or finding people uh, like me who are experiencing things like me, and embracing that, at the time I thought that that would mean that I was moving forward without her, like, leaving her behind. And so I kind of feared it in the beginning, and I ran from it, and I isolated myself even more, because it was the thought of, well, now if I embrace it, then it means I'm okay with my mom transition. And at the time, when I thought okay with her transition, I looked at it in a negative way, and I thought that it meant that I would forget her, and I wasn't okay with that feeling. But as I've grown and worked and went to therapy and like do my own work, I worked through those feelings, and I no longer feel that way. And I understand that, I have to embrace her journey as well as my own. And I know that I am impacted by her journey, and it has a bigger purpose on my life, but it's also my own unique journey as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let's break down the different journey thingies because, when we look at our moms, it's like, that's who I am. That's who I came from.
Mhm.
Like, what do you mean that it's a different journey? But
Yes.
like, yeah, and it's hard to separate the two because that's all that we've known, right?
Yes. In the beginning, it was very hard for me to separate the two
Hmm.
because I felt like, you hear the saying like a part of you dies, right? Like your heart is broken and it's gone. And you don't know what that truly means until you experience loss of that magnitude. And so when my mom transitioned, I truly felt like I was gone with
Hmm.
her, like although I was here in the present, I felt so lost. I felt like a rug was literally like removed from under my feet and I couldn't. I was gasping for air. That every day felt like. Every day felt like, what is this life? And in the beginning, all I could think about is her and I as one.
Hmm.
And I didn't even think or reflect to look at her life as her own life because I thought her life and my life was just one. And I think a part of that is because, I was the only child and me and my mom was extremely close. And so in the present time, before her passing, that's how we acted as one. And so when she left, it was hard for me to see myself as an individual as well as herself. And in order for me to heal, I had to understand that her journey, so that's her life, how she lived and how she transitioned, was her own. I was a part of it, I impacted it, and I contributed to it, but it was her story. And my story is my own. She impacted to it, she was a part of it, but it's my own story. I have to create that life. I have to see where it takes me. And that was hers as well. Although I couldn't imagine that cancer and early death would have been a part of her journey, that's what it was. And I had to recognize it for that. And that was hard. It felt so harsh to be like, so my mom is like her own person, like it's not,
Hmm.
she's not a part of me. I have to accept that unfortunately, this was her ending in this lifetime, not, forever, but in this lifetime, that was her ending. It felt so harsh and I fought it. But um, once I embraced it, I was able to feel better and I was able to appreciate her story and her journey even more. Um, and, I just think my mom is a warrior. And I think that although her journey ended, it forever transcends.
Absolutely. And that is indeed a game changer. Like, once you see it through it just
Yeah.
makes it a whole lot easier to take the
Yeah.
next step and to embrace this other parts of the journey, and someone out there needed to hear that because we're so connected to our parents and, rightfully so. But when you start to look at it from her story is her story and my story is mine, it's sort of graceful and forgiving,
It
and it sort
is.
of releases the anger that comes along with the grief. It sort of helps in that area too, knowing that, this is it had nothing to do with me, right? It had nothing
Hmm.
to do with our relationship. This is just how her journey was supposed to end, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
now what comes from that is beauty. You'll be able to see, like, now I can embrace me as a individual whole being, you know.
Hmm.
Now I can get to self-identify and figure out who I am on this journey without the physical presence of my mother being there. At the same time, we're still honoring who she was, and it's like it reminds me sort of like the caterpillar and the butterfly.
Yeah.
You just embrace it. Now I'm not saying that it becomes like that's the end of grief. No
Oh
way.
gosh, by no means. We don't want to ever make it sound like that means that that's easy, or that it's still not heartbreaking, or that it's still not, I'm not ever in a rage anymore, but I still get upset sometimes, like, even understanding from a high level what it represents, her transition, I still get upset sometimes. I'm like, "Ugh," like mad and like, but why?
Yeah,
Why our journey had to be like this? Why us? Even when I understand it in that level. And so by no means does understanding it in this way and looking at this perspective makes the journey just done.
yeah,
And, you know, the journey is forever.
yeah. It's
It,
never done.
right? It's forever. You just have different phases, that you go through, different lives is what I feel like, right? Different
Yeah,
lives of your grief. And once you accept it as, hey, this is just, hey, I'm here, I'm in this life right now, but I don't know what it's going to look like for me next year. It may look different. That can be positive, or, maybe not so positive. Grief is always ups and downs. And I think once you accept it in that sense, you're able to understand that if you're ever in a down moment, that you know that you can go back up again. And that's how
absolutely.
I look at my grief. I have moments where I'm still extremely upset, so angry, so really, really sad. I mean, my heart forever breaks for the
Mhm.
bond that me and my mom had that I no longer share in the physical. But I have experienced in the last 2 years so many more ups than downs, and I never thought that I would be here ever. So it is hope that no matter how you feel, like, oh, that could never be me, that's what I thought. And I surprised myself in this journey of who I actually am and what I perceive myself to be prior to experience grief.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty in it. That's so beautiful. And someone needed to hear this because there's someone out there right now who's in this feeling of, right before the brink of understanding and accepting it, but also like, man, but if I accept it, it solidifies
Right.
what I don't want to be true. But like just cross the threshold. It's okay. It's once you go through that door, once you go through that feeling of understanding that part of the journey, on the
Hmm.
other side, it's just like so much light there. And like what I was talking about on the other episode, finding your purpose in
Hmm.
pain, like that
Hmm.
is so true. Like pain, the darkness does
Yeah.
birth light. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And I just wish that like what we're doing right now, like it just seems normal, right, for us because we've been in it for like years. But it just needs to be like a norm thing. Like people should be able to have conversations about their grief journey without feeling judged,
Hmm.
or without feeling like you don't understand or you don't get it, because there are so many people. And I've learned just from being on your grief support calls that there are so many people who feel like I feel like what I thought was crazy,
Yeah.
someone else experienced the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So
I
it
mean, that was one of the first things, right, that we clicked on, was that just the word itself, darkness.
yeah,
And it felt surreal. It felt almost like an out of body experience, because before the grief call, I mean, not one time have I heard anybody else describe the feeling with that word, because I can never articulate how I felt
mhm,
with grief in the beginning. The only word that came to my mind was darkness, is a word that I never have used in that context before. And so it almost is a sign and a message that it is for us.
mhm.
I call us unfortunate group. It's for us. Because it's like never would I have used it. And it actually led to my business name, Finding Her Light, because when I was in that darkness, I, one, at the beginning, I thought I would never get out. And once I started to do some work, my absolute goal is to never go back to darkness, to never go back to that stage in my life. because of what that represented for me is something I don't ever want to feel again. And so I have been on my journey, my grief journey has been to find my light. And so it's just so ironic, and you get on the call and you're like, wow, um, you feel like a true almost sisterhood when everybody can connect in a way where we all are so different, but we all have so many parts of ourselves that are similar. And I think that's what's missing because we have not normalized grief. We all
Mhm.
feel isolated. We all feel as if our journey is just ours. And it's, of course, everybody's is still unique, right? I don't ever want to say that no one's journey isn't unique. But my favorite phrase when I was going through grief is that nobody understands. Like, that was my favorite phrase, like, nobody understands. And once I created this group, I'm like, oh, that's been debunked. Like, oh, no,
Right,
actually, people do understand.
right.
Um, and it actually is empowering. At first I felt powerless. I felt, almost ashamed to share and to talk about my journey because it's not something that's readily acceptable online. It's like a taboo. And
Mhm.
so, as I've begun to be brave enough, which everyone who's grieving who speak out is so brave, as I've been brave enough to speak about it, I feel so empowered. I feel pride in sharing my journey and everyone else's stories if they choose to let me share them. I feel like I am making an impact. And that's something that I never would have thought about when I was initially in my grief. Like, I
Mhm.
thought that I would just be there by myself in isolation and never share the ugly things that I experienced, and these ugly truths have turned to something beautiful that has connected many of us.
So true, so true. Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing to be able to find, like you said, that sisterhood, that tribe, just people who
Yeah.
can relate to you. And so I know that one of my goals, and I've heard you say it too, that your goal is to normalize it,
Yeah.
normalize grief, just so people don't feel as though they have to be alone, because you don't have to be. Like sometimes what I like that you do on the call is that if you want to share, here's your time to share, or if not, it's completely fine. I like that you
Yeah.
give the choice, and no one feels pressured, but those people, the people who are silent, they're still hearing, and
Yes.
that they're connecting, and like, man, they're getting something out of it. So sometimes it's just it's just, I just love that this is a thing now, right? Like,
It
I
is.
think
It is a thing. And it's, I think having that consistency, regardless of how many people, would listen or see or join, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we're continuously putting it out there, which means that someone, whether it's one person, or more than one person, someone is understanding grief in a different way. And
right.
that's our goal. At the end of the day, that's the end goal, is for us to normalize it for sure, but to make sure those who are grieving feel okay in what they are experiencing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like, we talked about our journeys. So I believe that this is what we chose to do.
Yeah.
This is what we said that we were going to come and do, even though it's hard. Even
Yes.
though losing that mom, that just hits different. Like, that's just
So different. So different. And it's so unexpected.
yeah. Yeah, but the beauty in it is that we're able to help others. We're able to be able to help other people find their light by
Yeah.
being vulnerable, right? Because I
Yeah.
would have never thought in a million years that I would be joining support groups and doing
Right.
podcasts and like having an organization trying to help people, telling my story. Because at one point I was embarrassed, I was ashamed of it. As silly as it may sound, like I didn't want people thinking that I was crazy, because if I was to say something like, "Oh, it feels so dark,"
Hmm.
every day, I didn't want to be judged, but this is the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never thought that I would be this vulnerable and join support groups and start a podcast and
Yeah.
do my organization and everything because, like I said, I thought I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I didn't want to be judged by using the words like darkness and things of that
Yeah.
nature. People thinking that, oh Lord, is she suicidal? But it's just not that. It's like you get it. And I
Yeah.
know
I
someone
do.
else who's listening to it, who's going through the grief process will get it. It's like I didn't want to harm myself, but at the same time, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was just like, which way should I go? What's next?
Yeah.
So me being this vulnerable is something that I never thought that I could do or would do because I'm such a private person. But I just
Yes.
feel bad. Yeah,
The
I just
same
feel
way.
bad.
Same way. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I noticed? I just realized and accepted that it's bigger than me. Like I can't
Absolutely.
control it. This is what God put in me. Like I can feel however I want to feel, but God is going to protect me on this new journey of vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be able to assist people in the process through love and through understanding. And, that's what life is about, really.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's when you choose, right? You decide to walk in your light, right? Um, it's no longer just your journey. You are now a part of a community. And I think that once I accepted that part, I was like, whoa, this is going to be extremely scary. Um, it's going to take a lot of courage. And I know that every day will not be a good day, like, deciding to do something like this. But I know my intentions. And I think that knowing that they're so good and so pure that I'm okay. I'm
Right.
okay with stepping out and being vulnerable when I'm a very, very private person and understanding that, what I share may help someone. And it's, again, like you said, it's bigger than us. Um, it's bigger than me. And so I have to keep that at the forefront. Because if I don't,
Yeah.
then I'll chicken out, right? I'll chicken out. And
Right.
I've chickened out so many times. And I know that I think that's just part of my journey. I'm going to have moments where I chicken out. Then maybe I'll grow and I'll get better. And I'll be like, you know what, let's go for it. And just having grace with myself and
Yeah.
being okay with knowing that my journey may be messy and it may not go as planned as what I wrote down in my planner or what I think the steps should be. And allowing myself to be okay with that, I think
Yeah.
it's what settles me and allow me to keep kind of pushing. Because if I would be so rigid about it and think about it too much, I don't think that I would even allow myself to even do something that's just simple, right? It's like talking to you on the phone because I'll feel like, but somebody's gonna hear it. you know so if I could suggest anything, anything out of all the things that we shared, to anybody who's grieving, is to be, graceful. Have grace with yourself. Give yourself permission to feel all the things, and
Mm.
know that it is your choice. You can choose to be and experience any emotion you want to. Give
That-
yourself that ownership.
Wow, that is so good. And that is so good to end on. That was good. I love the grace. Everything is about grace. I love it.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you so much for joining today.
Of course.
I
Of course.
love the
Thank you for having.
organic. Absolutely. I love the organic energy. And like when we get on the calls, it just flows and it's just so wonderful. And
Yeah.
I know that this will touch some people out there and they just thank you. I really appreciate you. Just thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And I feel grateful for being on your platform.
Thank you so much. And so what I also like to do is I like to end my calls, what a podcast with a quote. So
Okay.
to just go off of what you said about grace, the quote is grace is the voice that calls us to change. and then gives us the power to pull it off. Yeah.
What a way.
Right.
Wow.
Yep. So thank you again, Precious. Her Instagram handle is at Finding Her Light. If you are someone who is grieving, a woman or young lady grieving the loss of your mom or dad, join us on the support groups every Wednesday, like she said, and like it's life changing. You won't regret it. And also, if you know of a kid or you are a kid who's between 5 and 17, who's grieving the parent or guardian, uh, reach out to us at Under Adria's Wings on Facebook and Instagram. The website is www.underadriaswings.com. And thank you, Precious, again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You do as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.